Today, I've been thinking a lot about why it is that social media seems so damaging to the public discourse. I'll save you the exact story that brought me to this thought, but I'm sure you can fill it in with one of your own. And no matter what little Twitter sparring battle or whatever thing you've been involved with or troll you tried to fight off, aren't you surprised that more opinions, more people, more access to information is not bringing us closer to uncovering some kind of unified truth? I just remember the early internet was so about democratization, that all these things that have been siloed and hidden from everybody, that once they're exposed, we'd all kind of be on the same page and people wouldn't get away with all these lies and misinformation. I'm starting to believe that the reason that we don't have knowledge, even though we have so much information, is something that could be figured out if we could get to the intent behind why the information was published in the first place. Okay, so let me explain. I put this in context of how humans have evolved and why it is that we even have verbal conversations in the first place. They didn't evolve so that we could have more scientific process. If anything, they're kind of a byproduct of the evolution of speech, which is really signaling what? Intention. One of the things that I can imagine being a problem 5, 10, 15, 20 million years ago would be trying to figure out the intention of the other members of your society and also the predators and stuff in your environment. But primarily, you look at another person or hominid and you want to know, is that person friend or foe? And then you watch body language. One theory for why we have so much white around our eyes is so that you can see what somebody's looking at from a distance to help gauge intention. A lot of the subtleties in the way that we lie and the way that we detect lying seem to have evolved right along with society. And then I look around at things like football games and I see people cheering for their team. And what are they doing? They're signaling their support of their team. So when I see somebody who's on X, Twitter, or whatever, and they're saying, oh, I believe in a flat earth, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think you do. And if I actually truly believed your intent and you are a person who actually believes the world is flat and is trying to share this interesting information they have, I would be super receptive to that person. And I probably have come across that person a few times and then inaccurately just assumed they were virtue signaling, because I think it's such an outlandish idea that the people who are joining that group want to fit in and kind of be contrarian or ruffle the feathers of mainstream thought. And I'm wondering if a future AI is so advanced and it knows us so well and it can get its head around the entire social graph, it might be able to label tweets like this with the intention that is behind why they're written. And if that's true, then maybe I could have my own little curated version of X or Twitter where everything that was tagged that I saw or was exposed to through the feed was actually people who had the intention to learn more and share in an honest way. Imagine how quickly we would start moving towards a meaningful society and actually learning from one another and adjusting course in healthy, corrective ways. If we had clear intention, be part of an in-group, just make sure that that group isn't part of the public discourse. This group can move towards the truth. This group can virtue signal for the social reasoning that we evolved to. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that humans are designed for this, and it's the same problem if all of your friend group, if all of the people who live in your neighborhood or you interact with in school, they all start to believe some crazy conspiracy, or they start to go down a route where they do something illegal to make money or whatever it is really hard to expect anybody to just isolate themselves and say I'm not going to fit in with you and then find their right group. Sometimes it's literally geographically hard to move. In other ways, sometimes people don't have time to start new friend groups or the social skills to do that, or it's nerve-wracking or dangerous and they just don't do it. So it's easier to figure out a way to just fit into the group, not ruffle feathers, and just actually become part of this thing that overall as a system is not good for the world, but for the individual kind of makes sense from a social perspective. The more you virtue signal and the more you repeat the talking points that all your friends are talking about, the more you internalize them, the more you apply them to different aspects of your life, the more that you actually just believe them. You really do become that person. And even when your social group's not around, I feel like that's how some of these people get completely caught into these cults, or they drink the Kool-Aid or whatever it is. And then to add fuel to the fire, do have a tight group of friends, and then somebody from another group starts to talk about how dumb you are, or how what you do doesn't make sense, or how you guys don't understand the truth. You have this natural instinct to find flaws in their arguments and defend your thing, and then all of a sudden we have this warring faction group environment, which I can totally imagine our ancestors living like. You can totally imagine our traveling or roaming ancestors. You can imagine the Indians and how they would be in groups of various sizes, but they would actually break off into factions, and you'd sort of be born into one, you would defend one, you would have ownership and a place in one, you would have your own spiritual beliefs. The stronger you got at the virtue signaling, the better you could like defend your group, the more respect you got, the more mates you got, the more knowledge that you got, the more trustworthy other people saw you as, locks into these little groups. And we see the same thing happening all over the internet. And make no mistake about it, media companies have no problem with this. In fact, they love it. There's algorithms that just put you right in your little cluster. They show you exactly the echo chamber that you want to be in. And then they even go selectively take the things that are going to like troll you or bug you or bother you and like put that in your face just so you and your friends can go after them. And that tension keeps you on the platform, and they can put advertisements in between that tension. But the nice thing about things being digital is that you can definitely go virtue signal for a little while, and then you can actually just maybe log into a different account or press a button to sort of change the world that you're in, and then go to another part of Twitter or some social network where people are actually having real conversations. And then you can turn off that side of you and go interact with this side. And that could be okay if we could learn to go back and forth and understand why it is that we act this way. I can imagine, especially using artificial intelligence, ways that we could curate little clusters of really good people with really good intention. If X could go around and find thousands of tweets where there was actually people talking about flat Earth in a completely like, here's the information, here's why I believe it, totally open to other opinions, like let's talk through this, I would find that super fascinating. And I would totally engage with those people. I would like them. I honestly would like them. I would be so open to talking about religion and politics and sharing my thoughts in that kind of an environment with those kind of tags on it. Because if I was doing it from an honest place and this AI system was so advanced that it really accurately could tell if it was intended for honesty or if it was intended for something else, then I would share those things because people would know it was coming from an honest place. And maybe there wouldn't even be a stigma around virtue signaling. I'm not even saying it's such a bad thing. I'm just saying save it so you can talk about your favorite Marvel character, your favorite football team. We all like to have the same talking points, whether they make our friends laugh or they motivate our social groups. And they're the behaviors that make us feel like leaders in our community. Or if nothing else, it's what the leader's doing and we're trying to signal to them that we get it, we understand, we're on board, look at the way I'm acting, look at the things I'm saying, like I am on your team. There's just no reason that has to actually equate to the way the politics and the government work. There's no reason that has to work to the way businesses run. There's no reason why we have to be on teams for stuff that is for the social good. So imagine with me how social media might change after the birth of something that I would call the AI intention engine on social media. So this would be a label or a category or a tag or however you want to put it on every tweet or every Instagram post or everything on Facebook, every YouTube video that had what the intention behind sharing the information was. So for example, something you read might have a small little eye icon and you click on it for information and it says that we think that this tweet was intended to anger others. But there could be other intentions, like to promote how smart someone is, somebody sort of virtue signaling, like, look at all this knowledge I have, probably like a lot of what I do with these videos. There's also virtue signaling for humor, which is something people really care about and admire in others. So you try to be clever, you try to be witty, you try to do references, and they can see that that's the main intent. There actually might even be multiple tags, or there could be nested tags, because a lot of what we're intending to do is just move up in social status. We show that we're competent mates or we're competent business people. And I'm starting to see a world where I can imagine this engine actually being built. It would be some kind of a blend of natural language processing, like NLP stuff, sentiment analysis, contextual understanding, all sort of things that we've seen possible with large language models. And if the algorithms already know, essentially, when they read the context of a tweet, who the right audience might be, especially because the person who put it already has a following, and that audience expects certain things from them, then AI should be totally capable of taking a guess as to what the potential impact of the message is and which circles and which tags it should put on it. Neither of us know right now what the next tweet is going to be from both Neil deGrasse Tyson and Andrew Tate. We can already take a pretty good guess at who the audience is going to be intended for. Therefore, a lot of assumptions can be derived about what the message is going to be. They've built very specific audiences that are curated in a completely different way. They have different demographics, and they're leaders of their spaces, and their audience is very different. They have to essentially virtue signal, but since they're the leaders, they have to kind of guide the conversation in a certain way. A system like this could become superhuman by both testing itself, but also just having human feedback. So it would say, I think this is the right intention on a tweet. A human would say, no, this is what I think it is. You just do that over and over again until it actually learns. But other key features that an AI could start to pick up on to figure out what the intention would be some of the emotional tone of the tweet. So like identifying whether it's angry, happy, sad, sarcastic, or whatever. Another feature could be expected action. So if you imagine the intention behind the tweet to do something in the world, that could be inform, it could be to question, it could be to argue, it could be to provoke, it could be to buy a product, it could be action-based, and those actions could be good signals for teaching a system about what the overall intention is. Yeah, the AI should take into consideration the context of the environment that the tweet is made in. So there's obviously news cycles every day. So current events, also specific audiences, considering past events in relation to whatever those days' news were or whatever was happening in that. And you would start to pick up a pattern of what kind of intention this person has as they react to all the different events that happen in the environment each day. Now, of course, there's all these details that I'm like glossing over, but just staying really conceptual, super high level. Think about it for a second. The idea of an AI intention engine might be something just worth considering or exploring more. Don't just dismiss it as something that's too dystopian. Because in real life, we know people like this. I have a friend who's so well-intentioned. This person just always is thinking good things about other people. And I have known this person for years. And if they said something that was kind of off from what I would normally expect, I would for sure give them the benefit of the doubt. I'd be like, that sounded really wrong. You don't say mean things about people. You either really need to say that, or you probably said it on accident, or I would investigate more. But because it would take so much course correction, I know this person's intentions in general. I would give them a chance to explain themselves. But the other side of it is, I know some people that are just like grumpy and hateful, and like if they say something nice, I'm like, I don't think you meant that. Probably said that tongue in cheek. Are you sure that's a real compliment? They're just grumpy people, and I know that. And their intention is to just tell the world all the things that are wrong with it all the time. So it's hard for me to even like get on board with the intention when they try to change. If it has a high accuracy and we generally trust it, then it would be interesting to apply it to all of the tweets that come out of some of our leaders and see, wow, is there a pattern in their intention? It would be interesting to see Elon Musk over time. What was your intention? Is it always good? Is it sometimes to promote your product? Is it coming from a place where you're insecure, or is it coming from a place where you actually believe these things? I don't really know. I can't tell what's a game and what's real anymore with a lot of these people, especially the way the media works. There's just such an incentive right now to say things that are just going to get attention, even though you might not even believe them at first, or maybe even ever. Like, I feel like so many of these people are just faking it, or I think AI is going to learn how to push all of our buttons too, and it's just going to get really ugly. Right off the bat, it's super clear that implementing a system like this, curation like this, seems very anti-free speech, right? And I'm just saying that it should not be controlled by Twitter itself. They should not be the ones that are like, let me decide what I think is the intention. So obviously I don't even know how you would implement this. It would have to be some kind of system that was like broader than a single company. Maybe it's owned by people, maybe it's some kind of a DAO, maybe it's some kind of open source model that you just apply to your own social media. I don't really know. So that's a huge problem, because it would definitely not work if it's all about corporate censorship. And actually, even if it was coming from the right place, if it was built for the citizens, by the citizens, there's a ton of privacy and data security issues and assumptions about people and what it could mean for like the jobs that you get, or the protected like classes. Like, it would be super problematic for a lot of those things. But those are all kind of problems that we're having already. Also, it's not a really economically viable way to go about things, because putting intentions on things means that advertisers are gonna totally get away from people who are just trying to anger others. I think so. Maybe there actually would still be just as much money. Maybe that would even help target. I'll take that back. Maybe that would even help targeted advertising. Maybe 6s on that one. But from a person who's trying to exist in an overwhelming digital sea of information, I think it could be a way to bring the world together. If you think about it, no matter what language you're speaking, Chinese, French, Spanish, there would be similar virtue signaling. There would be similar clusters, similar leaders, similar patterns. And that might be pretty awesome in the case of trying to remove all the garbage, get to honest intentions in certain ways, and then translating languages and keeping that all into a bubble where we're actually learning from the rest of the world in an honest way. Because for all the divisive groups that are out there, countries, cultures, languages, that's just another big barrier that comes with all sorts of connotations. Like there's all sorts of jokes about like French people and Europeans and like Americans, and all of that stuff is kind of the same problem where you'd want to filter that all out. And because a lot of the labeling would be done from human feedback, if we got good people in there, a well-rounded kind of world citizen kind of army to help train this system, then that would be a good thing. Because then the ethical guidelines come along with what people actually think the ethical guidelines should be, because they're the ones choosing the intention. Anyhow, the journey to fix Twitter, or X as it's called now, is literally at the very beginning. You have to rebuild this thing somehow. You got all of this AI and these new with 10,000 GPUs. They've got this big cluster, got X, the new AI company, to do something with it. You want it to be an awesome place. Like, this is an idea. Play with it. Maybe it could pave the way for a future where we have more conversations that are nuanced, respectful. They exist in ways that impact the real world. It'd be awesome. And if you're somebody who wants to virtue signal to others around you that you like videos like this, tag that subscribe button, leave a comment, help me get to my next goal. Talk to you soon.